I am Danné, Ojeda, and I am an interdisciplinary artist and designer. I study art history as well as design, so my practice spans areas that are very interdisciplinary, in between, as I say, art, design, but also art criticism, etc. And since 2012, I founded a research group, but also a practice-based group that is called Design Lab. And it's part of a research project in Nanyang Technological University in Singapore. And I'm happy to say that it has been funded by the Ministry of Education since then. And in this group, we do a sort of laboratory and experimental practice that will always integrate and relate art, design, and sciences. In 2019, there was a support for one of these projects that we did in Design Lab that was called Microscopes. Research experiments between art, design, and sciences, and it was much about looking into how to represent or how to dig and somehow uncover the intangible. And this project that you see here, Blueprint Cyanometer, is an expression of it. Blueprint Cyanometer, it's a print, a newsprint that contains all the hues and the blues of the sky. And this is heavily inspired by the cyanometer, which was a tool that was invented in the 18th century, at the end of the 18th century, by Horace Benedict de Saussure. And it was something very poetic, so to speak, back then, because it was based on that question of how do we see the blue of the sky? How do we represent the sky? How do we measure the sky? Something so intangible. So this cyanometer had 52 shades of blue. And I tried to represent that with my piece. So each of the newsprint has one of the hues of the cyanometer in order to measure the intangible, which is the blueness of the sky. I do work quite a lot in doing this sort of practice that I call exhibition in print, which is to create a print or a newsprint in this case that's entirely two-dimensional and that will become in situ, so to speak, in this space in an installation. So how does this happen? I invite visitors to fold the pages of the newsprint, and they can fold it into a paper boat, an airplane, or a hat. And they, of course, are very much related to the theme of the cyanometer that represent the skies, but also where the airplane traverses. But at the same time, these hues of the sky that the cyanometer represents reflects in the sea, where eventually the boats navigate. And the hat would be most corresponding with the human being, which is the agent that make possible that all this transportation, of course, are created. But most importantly, the main agent of taking care of the environment and making sure that we take care of the planet we live in. Because there's something very important that this tool brought along, the cyanometer, that I haven't really spoken about, which is it's not just measuring the blue of the sky, how the sky can be, say, here in Italy or in Singapore, and then at the same day we measure that there are, oh, listen, there's this kind of same blue. It's also, what does this represent? What does it mean that there is a brighter blue, a deeper blue that represents that the atmosphere is clean, is livable, as opposed to a blue that might be whitish, pale, grayish, that might indicate eventually haze and contamination. So that's why when folding these pages into objects, the men is somehow represented in the hat. And there's a very big question as well. Why a newsprint? Well, newsprint, I am an editorial designer. I am very much related with everything printed matters, can give an exercise. And in this epoch where printing is being questioned and is being told or commented about the end of print, I'm always looking into how print can be revived, can be bringing people along, even if it's just in the act of folding or creating objects that later on can be part of an exhibition. Newsprint has a very specific characteristic. There's no way you can print an even blue. And I thought that was also very much reflective of the sky. You rarely see a pure blueness in all its hues. This blue is almost always contaminated in the same way that the newsprint of the page of the newsprint comes along. And there's also another nuance of the newsprint. We always see the news, and what do we see there? We see the mastheads, we see the headlines, of course the news. But in this case, there's almost always very little that relates to the environment, to the care of the environment. And I thought it was very interesting to substitute all these mastheads, headlines, news by the atmosphere itself, by the blueness of the sky being represented by itself, being the news itself. Last but not least, I thought this piece was very attuned with the theme of this biennial, light and darkness. It actually represents the entire spectrum of the blue of the sky that, as I said, represents in the water of the sea. So it is all together, all encompassed to somehow be a poetic representation of the world we live in. So thank you so much.